You want to come here? I'll give you a mic.
Very good. Dear panelists and education experts from throughout Tamil Nadu, principals, management, good afternoon. Today is going to be a very important topic, what we are discussing from morning. School Quality Conclave on Quality Assurance and Accreditation for School Education. To define the quality in terms of various parameters or character, content, pass percentage, grades, leadership qualities, and commitment to nation. Quality is based on what customer wants or desires. The best option to the customer is king. As Mahatma Gandhi said, our customer is the king. Who is our customer? Our students and parents are our customers. So what does a parent need? They want their ward to achieve their dream, but they have different dreams. But in many schools, we have regulation systems, but parent has a different dream. Last week, I met a student. He wants to learn German. I asked, why do you want to learn German? He said, I want to be a Formula driver. So I want to go to German. So I am learning German. So that kind of dream they have. So we should discuss with the students and parents to satisfy them who are going to be our king, customers are going to be a king. Following up with good process, curriculum development, continuous training, and development of teachers and empowerment for teachers also. Each student is unique, then how we can standardize the practice. Best schools look for mass customization, concept of 80% and 20%. 80% is standardized and 20% is customized to each student through his house parent. So outcome is multiplier of input quality, process, and how these motivate the child to put in effort. If, for example, if each works with 90% of effectiveness, the final result is 90%. If each works with 80% of our effectiveness, the final result is only 70%. So each operates at 50%, the result is 12.5%. With this, I think the panel has to come with ideas which will be useful for the attendees and listeners from the following discussion points. Maybe my suggestions are, why do you need quality assurance in schools? How do one define quality strategy and parameters? Characteristic of good quality assurance system in school. Process, strategies for quality assurance in school. Challenges one faces while trying to improve quality assurance. Now I request the co-chair and other panel members to say a few words and then we'll go for question and answer. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. In the first session, we have discussed the existing practices in our country as well as the international level. In this particular session, now we are going to discuss the available school standards. Before that, I will take 2 minutes and would like to say that as of now, the entire country was focusing more on numbers and numbers and numbers. We have launched Andhra Pradesh Education Project, District Primary Education Program, Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan Program, Bihar Education Project, Lok Jambesh, Shiksha Karmi, and now Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, which is now merged into the Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan has become the Samagra Shiksha. All around, we focused more and more creating schools, bringing students to enroll and providing infrastructure facilities. But of late now, our focus is now diverted onto the quality of education. So far as the numbers are concerned, we have achieved a lot. Our education management information system, the statistical system is also now, can be said that it has improved, but still there are many areas of concern. School availability of the school is no more a problem. Gross enrollment ratio is 102. Net enrollment ratio is 92. Retention rate is 75. Transaction rate is 85. The gender parity index in many states is in the favor of the girls. Teacher-people ratio across the country is very comfortable. A good number of teachers, they used to undergo the in-service training programs. But still, there are many problems in our system. We are now discussing the quality, which is very relevant. But unfortunately, many states, they have stopped recruiting the regular teachers. In place of the regular teachers, they are now appointing only the contractual teachers, which are known as the Guruji or Shiksha Mitra, Shiksha Ye Wo. But unfortunately, that is very unfortunate, because we are now focusing on the quality of education, which is very relevant now. There are many issues here so far as the developing accreditation for the school education and training is concerned. In due course of time, we will discuss whether it is based on the qualitative data or quantitative data, what indicators are to be used. Are these indicators which we are going to use are school-based or systematic indicators? And there are other indicators also. This is in brief. I would like to say that the time has now set to look into the quality-related issues and accreditation of schools in our country. I take this opportunity and introduce two of my panelists today. And the two panelists will be introduced by our chairman, Dr. NandhaKumar and Ms. Meenakshi Ramesh. They have got vast experience working in the area of education and allied fields. Dr. NandhaKumar is the former member of Tamil Nadu Government Juvenile and Justice Board, as well as Child Welfare Commission. He is serving State Secretary of Education Promotion Society for India, which is popularly known as EPSI. He is also the state chairman of Bharat Scouts and Guides, as well as the state president for Teachers for India. He is also the state secretary of education wing of the Bharatiya Janata Party of the Tamil Nadu state. Ms. Meenakshi Ramesh has got very rich experience working in the field of education. Over a period of about 40 years, she worked in this area. She is presently director of curriculum and research and development in Wales Group of Schools. She is also program leader of Cambridge International Certificate and Diploma for Teaching and Learning. I take this opportunity, and in due course of time, we will pose the questions. Now, I would request our chairman to introduce the remaining two speakers. Thank you very much.
So I like to introduce our panel members, Professor Neeraj Gupta, Dean School of Architecture, Central University of Rajasthan, Ms. Jayashree Venkatraman, Vice Principal KSN School. So I request Professor Neeraj Gupta to have few words, then we'll go for question and answer. Then panel members, each member can have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Few things I would like to mention. When it comes to quality, we are always looking at one sector, that's a public sector versus private sector. There's a huge paradigm difference in the two sets of schools that we have here. One very major difference is that kind of people who are talking about it. Other thing, when we are looking at the quality in the quantitative and the qualitative terms, and I remember sir saying the parents' counseling is important. I kind of disagree with the word that student is our customer. Customer is somebody who really knows what is it, and you serve the customer for give him whatever he wants. Definitely, schools are not meant for that. We have to give them what we as a nation need and what we as a society need. So I think a lot of counseling at both levels are required. When it comes to quality, I would say there are 4 things which we'll have to really look into. One is the governance part of it. That's very important. The whole infrastructure part of it. Completely miss out on the way we design and build our schools. We did a quick study in about 20 schools, very, very famous schools, and we discovered that everything else was very nice, but the acoustics of classroom was so bad that the children in the fourth row are not able to hear that. And that's a real experiment we did. Not many teachers would know that because of bad acoustics, there is a 50% higher probability of teachers getting heart attack because they have to speak louder. So, that's some of these things are really very critical for us to understand. The quality of teachers becomes a very critical thing, because when we talk about experiential learning and other such things, how are we going to train them? And when we think that we need 7 million teachers, well trained, working on that area, so that's one question that we have. And then we have to really encash upon the potential that we have, technological savviness and other such things. A lot of things are talked about in national education policy, and we really need to look at the quality parameters of the schools, which have to be very different from what probably are there for higher standards, and we'll have to create some layers for each one of them: public schools, private schools, various other levels. Otherwise, there's a lot of differences will come in. Thank you.
Thank you, organizers, for giving me this excellent opportunity. And right from the morning, we have been talking about issues on how do we integrate the standards set forth by the national and the international boards, then how do we arrive at satisfying all the stakeholders, and probably now comes the turn, if I can have a mix of all this and then address within the time limit that is given to me on speaking about the quality standards and metrics for strengthening the quality assurance in school education. I would want to give a very practical example, and everything starts with an introspection. And however big the picture may look like, it may look like a huge task, but the change has to happen from within. Like right from the morning, we have been talking on this. How do I bring in this change? If I'm going to be reflecting on this, whatever position you hold, either as a management running the institution, or as a leader, or as a student, or as a parent, or as a teacher, you find out what would you want to become at the end of the day. You want to become successful, it's again a yardstick. How do I define success? I want to become a very successful and healthy and a happy human being at the end of the day. What is the meaning of this word happy human being? So there are yardsticks, there are frameworks available. So with the little practice that I have had of going through, and somebody asked from the August audience also, how do we have instances of combining the international and the national standards? Yes, they do give us a scope to look deeper into the standards, and it gives us a framework which can be customized to our needs, our clients, our context. The school where the school is set up, it depends on the community, what it demands. It differs from place to place. The stakeholders are different from place to place. But if I have a framework, if I have to reach that framework with the standards, I can use a straight line, I can use a wavy line, and I can create a beautiful picture with the quality that I would say, what should I do now? What do I want my learners to become? And there was also a discussion on how do you want the learners to be at the end of the day as the stakeholders? Yes, I need to know that the learners have to be confident. They have to become responsible. And somebody spoke about patriotism. If I were to become responsible, I have to become responsive to others also. I have to become innovative as a leader. I have to develop that quality. I have to bring in that aspirational, professional environment for anybody to say, how can I progress? The success, the quality towards which is incremental. I have to be engaged. I have to be liking something. If I'm passionate about something, I have to be knowing how to express that I'm passionate in doing this. So with a combination of deeper research being done as an individual, as either a very responsible teacher, of course the teachers play a major role in this vintage innovation, tried and tested methods, with not so tried and tested methods. There may be gadgets, there may be apps, the gadgets break, the apps may become obsolete, but remember, As teachers, we are the ones who are going to create the impact at the end of the day. It's a vintage evolution. It is a vintage innovation. And we are here to do that innovation with NABET, where they are giving us the frame for us to draw the beautiful picture. And one example of what I have done with little inputs from the, international boards where the standards are set up, I would broadly say it is an ocean. It is an ocean, as you say. Somebody said in the morning, education is a huge umbrella. You start delving deeper into that. It is your own introspection. It is your own interest in making it to be reflecting better, doing better. And somebody asked, why do you need a smartphone? That is where I need to say where I need to improve. Even I take a selfie, I will teach my child how I can take a better selfie. That is quality improvement. That is learning. So I would want my learners to become confident, engaged, responsible, innovative, and of course, very independent learners at the end of the day. And that is what we have to do as teachers, leaders, parents. They want them to be independent. And once they become independent, they know this is what I want to do. This is what I need to do. But I know rural-urban divide is so huge. But then little drops of water makes a mighty ocean. If all of us can do this collaboratively, again, that is where the quality reaches out to schools working with, sharing your experiences, teach the children to share the best practices, teachers to share the best practices, put up a board, hey, this is what I did today. And that is the learning that spreads wide. And you have to inspire each other as leaders. And for teacher standards, I'm just going to keep it very brief with what I've been practicing as a trainer in our own schools. It's to demonstrate knowledge and understanding of students and how they learn, know your subject and curriculum content and how to teach it, demonstrate professional teacher values and attributes, establish professional relationship to develop and support learning and teaching, implement effective planning, teaching, learning, and assessment is a huge umbrella. You have so many standards under that. If you really want to do that, I have to do a self-study as a leader, as an individual, as a teacher, as a student. If I role model that, my learners will also learn that. Demonstrate innovative and effective classroom practice. Create and maintain a safe and inclusive learning environment. There was a mention on that also in the morning. Engage professionally with parents and other communities. Of course, they are the stakeholders. And when it comes to this, it is just not the teachers who are to be shown how to improve their quality. Of course, if the leaders are not going to be motivative, and the leaders have to set in a standard. And for leaders, we have identified, of course, this fascinates me a lot. As a leader, I have to show leadership in knowledge and understanding. I have to know the skills and practices of leadership values and attributes, and professional relationship in leadership, and leading teaching and learning, and leading innovation and improvement, and establishing management systems, where you spoke about the policies in the morning. So with all this, if we can take one strand as an example, I'll just tell you how I evaluate with a traffic signal. We have a traffic signal. I don't want a second round, sir. I just would want to finish off with this. Okay. So I'm just giving a practical example, and somebody said, can we have a mix of both? This is what I do with my team of teachers, with my colleagues, with my peer. I just take a small component of planning, teaching, assessment, and evaluation. Then how do I do a small strand of that huge topic? It is something on, I have to be very clear when I walk into my class, and I have to set challenging goals for my learners. I have to be very explicit in saying today's conclave is for us all to understand why do we need to know something about quality and how do we approach that. This is the goal, for example. And then achievable learning goals for all students. This is the small strand which I want to test. Then I give them a traffic signal as red, which means I never do this, amber, occasionally, and green, forever I'm doing this. I'm just giving you two questions which I put under this. Ask for yourself, if I were to set explicit, challenging, and achievable learning goals for all students, I put the first question, Do I set individual learning goals that stretch and challenge students of all backgrounds, abilities, and dispositions, but are achievable? Here you talk about inclusive, you also talk about the people who are left behind. Somebody in the morning spoke, our chief guest also spoke that you need to have everybody included. It may not be in terms of physically challenged or specially challenged children. Even in this conclave, if somebody is not listening, I have to make him listen to what I'm saying. If that is my ability, we are all marching towards the right path. If I were to test on whether I have set the explicit goals very clearly, whether is it achievable, everybody, then I ask a question to myself. Somebody asked, how do you set these standards? How do you even say I have achieved all this? It is easy to write the statements, but then I need to have some kind of a parameter to check for myself and a 360-degree feedback from my colleagues, my own learners, my own top line managers. If I can get that, I will say, I will know that I have set these explicit goals. If I discuss with my students their individual learning goals and make sure that they are communicated in language that is age appropriate. This is just one example of testing whether I have set these goals properly. Then I'm touching on a small iota of my huge strand of planning, execution, assessment, and evaluation. If you want to talk more on this, I am available anytime. I can take you through how we set this traffic signal, RAG. I just want to end up, I don't want a second round. I just say one nation, one integrity, and one emotion should be there for all our educationists here of taking our country ahead, and that collaborative effort where we can let us lend the best possible sharing solutions and not just the statements. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Meenakshi. I request Mrs. Jayashree to say a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank the chair for giving me this opportunity and all the honorable panelists here for being with us in this discussion. My thanks to NABET for organizing this beautiful event. A lot of parameters and lot of data and measurement indices, a lot of indicators of judging quality effectively have been discussed by us all the while. So I would like to probably talk about certain specific points that I think we should focus on. Now, when we are going to be talking about indicators of quality assurance systems, indicators of assurance systems which we can use for effectively gauging the strength of the quality assurance system in our institutions, a few things we need to keep in mind. Where we talk about quantitative data, qualitative data also needs to be given equal importance, is my view. So this point, I think, was brought up by someone in the morning. So my view here is, again, I might differ from what ma'am said in the morning. My view here is quantitative data cannot be ignored at all, because we rely on quantitative data to be telling us what is the situation at present, what are the problems plaguing our system. Maybe if we take indicators like student attendance, or if we take an indicator like teacher-student ratio, or maybe if you take grades, quantitative data is going to tell us what the issues are. But we need qualitative information to back up this quantitative data to be telling us why, to answer the more important question of why the situation is in a particular way in a given scenario. So there are qualitative indicators which are going to be backing up the quantitative indicators to help us grow and evolve. Another aspect which I wanted to discuss here is qualitative indicators only can be the judge in certain parameters. When we want to define efficiency, parameters like, for example, in the morning we were talking about counseling services that a school provides. So how do you evaluate the effectiveness of counseling services provided in a school? If we are able to do that, we would need feedback of parents, feedback of students to understand whether we are imparting that, whether that is sinking in, whether the students are getting effective counseling at school level when they make their decisions in class level or at college level. So this feedback will again be purely qualitative, which is going to help us set standards to be able to guide the students effectively. Again, if you take a parameter like, for example, remedial education. Remedial education at schools, to understand which children need remedial intervention, we will probably also have to rely on teacher observations, on various qualitative records which are going to be backing the quantitative information. So I'm purely talking about the metrics aspect of the topic given to us today, where we are talking about data metrics used in quality assurance systems. My point here is qualitative data and quantitative data have to go hand in hand. So from there on, I'm going to continue with the rest of the questions, and maybe the next panelist will come and take over from here. Thank you very much.
May I now request Sri Bharat Mata Dr. Mohan. He is correspondent of 𝗤𝗂𝗴𝗶 Netaji Matric School, and he is also the state vice president of the education cell of the Bharatiya Janata Party.
வாழ்க தமிழ் வளர்க பாரதம். I'm so proud of, in fact, our energetic, the great future person, Dr. Selvam. என்னை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் டாக்டர் ஐயா விஸ்வநாதன் ஐயாவை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் இந்த உலகத்தில் ஐ டூர்ட் ஆல் ஓவர் தி வேர்ல்ட். இன்ஃபேக்ட் ஐ வாண்ட் டு சே எவரி ஸ்கூல் ஷுட் ஜாயின் வித் யுனெஸ்கோ. In UNESCO, there is the heritage value. For example, the teachers. In fact, our sir has taken the international school, very big project. But at the same time, my only one thing, there is a no life teaching. For example, நாம குறிப்பா ராமனையும் லக்ஷ்மணனையும் we are telling about the friendship day. Today is the greatest friendship day. But we never teach our culture. நம்ம கலாச்சாரத்தில் இல்லாத எதுவுமே கிடையாது. மாதா பிதா குரு தெய்வம், ஆச்சார தேவோ பவ பித்ரு தேவோ பவ. இவன் சொல்லப்போனா தெய்வத்துக்கு முன்னாடி குரு கொடுக்கக்கூடிய ஒரே கல்ச்சர் தமிழ்நாட்டில் கல்ச்சர். இட் இஸ் இந்தியன் கல்ச்சர். So in our school, no doubt, all are very sophisticated toilets. In fact, நான் எந்த ஸ்கூல் போனாலும் முதல்ல I will check with the toilet. I will check with the water, other than the building. No doubt, with the God grace, everybody is doing lot of development, latest technology. In fact, digital boards, even Wi-Fi technology, even nowadays, even artificial intelligence, everything is, we are going to teach. It is a need of the hour. But at the same time, where is a missing? இன்னைக்கு குறிப்பா தமிழ்ல ரொம்ப கஷ்டமா இருக்கு. சில குழந்தைகள் சூசைட் பண்ணிக்கிறாங்க, கேட்டா ஸ்ட்ரெஸ்ன்றாங்க. அப்துல் கலாம் போலவர்களெல்லாம் உருவாக்கின தமிழகத்துல, வெதர் இட் இஸ் அன்பார்ச்சுனேட் வெரி ஃபேட், அதுவும் பர்டிகுலர்லி பிரைவேட், அது ஏன்னு தெரியல, பிரைவேட் ஸ்கூல்ஸ்ல அன்பார்ச்சுனேட் இஸ் ஹேப்பனிங். மை ஹம்பிள் ரெக்வெஸ்ட் இஸ் our heritage value should be teach in the culture oriented. For example, even the divine child, the divine parents, ஒரு குழந்தை நல்ல குழந்தைன்னு சொல்றதுக்கு நம்ம சர்டிஃபிகேட் கொடுக்குது பேலா, we are giving a sports certificate. Even we can give the some specification, who are the divine child, who are the divine parents. We have to give lot of specification. உதாரணமா காலையில் எழுந்துக்கணும், சூரிய உதயத்துக்கு முன்னாடி எழுந்துக்கணும் அப்படின்னா இன்னைக்கு parents are facing a lots of problem. ஒரு ஸ்கூல்ல குழந்தைக்கு அனுப்புறதுக்குள்ள போதும். But humble request, one more thing, kindly, madam has told about inspire. We never teach to inspire my mind, so many inspire lives. In fact, ஆசாதி மகோத்சவ் 75வது வருஷத்துல, what we are thinking now, 2047, 100வது வருஷத்துல நம்முடைய கல்வித்தரம் எப்படி இருக்கணும்? Within the 100 years, நாலந்தா பல்கலைக்கழகத்தில் மாறி இருந்த one of the world famous universities. Like that, in fact, our V8 universities have become very world level universities. இன்றைக்கு தமிழ்நாட்டில் எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சு அதிகமான உலக மாணவர்கள் படிக்கக்கூடிய ஒரே கல்வி நிறுவனம் அவங்க தான். In fact, there is a students from Russia, சுப்பிரமணிய பாரதியாருக்கு எதுக்கு யுனெஸ்கோ சொன்னா யுனெஸ்கோ we are going to conduct for சுப்பிரமணிய பாரதியார் to ஏக் பாரத் ஸ்ரேஷ்ட பாரத், அதாவது ஒரே நாடு வலிமையான நாடு. அதுக்கு சுப்பிரமணிய பாரதியார் என்ன பண்ணான்னு சொன்னா, இன்ஃபேக்ட் சுதந்திரம் வாங்கறதுக்கு முன்னாடியே சுதந்திரத்தை பத்தி பாடுவோம். ஆனந்த சுதந்திரம் பெற்று விட்டோம் என்று சொன்ன பாடல், மனதில் உறுதி வேண்டும் என்ற பாடல். இப்படி இந்த கல்ச்சர் ஓரியன்டட் the UNESCO we are going to celebrate in Subramania Bharatiyar. But when we discuss now Subramania Bharatiyar, the ambassador of UNESCO is a Vishal Sharma. He is a Mumbai person. He is a very cultured person. Now our India is selected for two heritage values to preserve our entire world. One of our India is one of the committee member. So my humble request, all the educationists, kindly give your culture oriented students in future. In 2047 we have to see. இதே தமிழ்நாட்டில் இன்றைக்கு வந்து உதாரணமா ஈவன் திருவேலங்காடு சிவன் கோயில் போகும்போது பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் வந்து ஈவன் லிக்கர் சாராயம் குடிக்கிறாங்க. ரொம்ப கஷ்டமா இருக்கு. அப்போ ஈவன் ஒரு அப்பா அம்மா, ஈவன் ஃபாதர் அண்ட் மதர் unable to control the children, even the student also unable to control by the parent. We are missing the culture. My humble request, உங்களுடைய எல்லாரும் பாதம் தொட்டு கேட்டுக்கொள்கிறேன். We have to generate our cultures oriented students in future India. Thank you. Absolutely. சட்டத்தை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் சட்டத்துல அதாவது நமக்கு எஸ்கேபிசம் ஒன்று சொல்றோம். நான் ஒரு தப்பு பண்ணா எப்படி எஸ்கேப் பண்றது? ஸோ எல்லாத்துக்கும் ஒரு ஜென்யூன் ரீசன் சொல்லலாம். பட் கல்ச்சர், ஒரு தந்தையும் மகனும் இருக்கக்கூடிய ஒரு உறவுக்கு சட்டம் என்ன இருக்கு? இன்னைக்கு ஒரு சொத்துக்காக பையன் வந்து அப்பாவை கொலை பண்றான், இல்ல அப்பா வந்து உறவுக்காக கொலை பண்றான். அந்த கல்ச்சர் இருந்துன்னு சொன்னா, பைண்டிங் இருந்துன்னு சொன்னா, விட்டு கொடுத்தார் வாழ்ந்து சொல்றோம். ஸோ தேர் இஸ் நோ டவுட் லா வில் பி தேர். நம்ம பர்டிகுலர்லி பிரைவேட் ஸ்கூல் ஷுட் பி வெரி சேஃபர். நவடேஸ் ரொம்ப அது அட்டாக் பண்ணக்கூடிய ஒரு இடமா இருக்கு. அது கூடாது. நிச்சயமா லா வில் கிரியேட், we will with God's grace, whatever the law you want, we can give the suggestion, we can give the even changes also. Particularly last time வந்து டீச்சர்ஸ் வந்து எதிர்த்து ஒரு குழந்தை கம்ப்ளைண்ட் பண்ணா டீச்சரை வந்து விசாரிக்காம எஃப்ஐஆர் போடாம அரெஸ்ட் பண்ணலான்னு ஒரு சட்டம் வந்தது. Then we objected. நந்தகுமார் சார் உடனே பண்ணணும். ஸோ ஒரு டீச்சர் வந்து ஒரு குழந்தைய கண்டிக்கிறோம்னு சொன்னா நல்லதுக்காக தான் கண்டிக்கணுமே தவிர வேற எந்த விதமான மோட்டிவும் கிடையாது. டீச்சர் இஸ் இன் கிளாஸ் ரூம், டீச்சர் இஸ் த சுப்ரீம். Even the God.
Thank you, Dr. Mohan. So he highlighted the culture of India, which is a need of the heart. As he mentioned, we had a bad incident in Kallakurichi school. I don't know, other states are not aware of that. Usually we say schools and hospitals are the same way. Teachers and doctors are doing service, there's not job. We do we do service for 99%. If 1% fails, the hospital is attacked. The same way school is attacked. I saw that school infrastructure, it's like an engineering college, maybe like a university. 4,000 students were studying there. Because of one incident, in one day the total school is spoiled. In fact, I saw a news announcement from the minister, they're going to have a separate act for the teachers and school. It's appreciated. Maybe from EPSI, there should be a request to the government, state government and central government for the safety of the teachers and school. Thank you. Now I request Professor Neeraj Gupta. There are many questions from our audience. Maybe to start with, I'll have one more question. So school education systems are complex and vary greatly across India. And same is true of the quality assurance mechanism that are embedded in and stir them. We need to explore the interplay among the different of elements in the system. Do you think there's a need to develop a coherent approaches to quality assurance?
There is absolutely no doubt about the need for a coherent approach. With the kind of diversity that we have and the kind of diversity in terms of languages, quality of schools, level of school educations in different states, and the numbers that we have to address. If we have to have 250 million children going to school, and with the teacher-student ratio 1:35, so probably more than 7 million trained teachers who need to be trained according to the requirement of the national education policy for experiential learnings and things like that. So a lot of standards will need to be, I think, they need to be flexible enough, and they must have a common string which runs through the whole setup. That's what my take on this is.
The next question to Dr. Mohan. What are the key areas or indicators in a school, or a school must focus to achieve the quality education? To give some examples. And while referring to the indicators, you should also refer within the existing setup in a school, we will able to produce the indicators which you are going to suggest.
Recently, the output of the students, particularly படிக்க கூட தெரியல அப்படின்னு சொல்லி விஷயம் வந்து. You can mention, for example, SLO. Particularly the student learning outcoming. உதாரணமா பாதி புரியுது, பாதி புரியல. புரிஞ்ச மாதிரி இருக்கு, அவுட்புட் வரல. மோஸ்ட் ஆஃப் த அதனுடைய ரேஷியோ வந்து பர்டிகுலர் ரொம்ப அதிகமா இருக்குன்னு ரொம்ப ஒரிடா இருக்கு. ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள், 𝗥𝗲𝗴𝗃𝗂𝗃, அது தமிழ் அழகா ஒண்ணு இருக்கு. உயிரெழுத்து மெய்யெழுத்து இரண்டும் சேர்ந்தார் உயிர்மை எழுத்து, ஆணும் பெண்ணும் சேர்ந்தார் என்னன்றது அந்த கல்வியிலேயே இருக்கு. ஆனா கா சொல்லித்தர 𝗥𝗲𝗃𝗃 சொல்லி தர மாட்டேன்றோம். So unable to read. So this should be rectified. That is SLO. That is outcome students from particular school ரொம்ப வருத்தமா இருக்கு, ரொம்ப கஷ்டமா இருக்கு. ஒரு காலத்துல வந்து ஸ்கூல் the best education in தமிழ்நாடு. இன்னைக்கு உலகம் முழுவதும் இருக்கக்கூடிய எல்லாருமே வந்து தமிழ்நாடு பல பேர் இருக்காங்க. So we want to concentrate. Our request is definitely we have to, the basic, that is outcome students should be increased. For that, teachers only. Teachers nowadays, no doubt, the pressure of the portion completion irundhalum kuda, we have to go with the outcome. It should be number one.
How do you define outcome? How do you measure outcome in a school?
Yeah, for example, teacher வந்து AIR air அப்படின்னு காத்து அப்படின்னு சொல்லி தரோம். But the teacher should, the student should know the switch on the fan, the air is coming. Even the air can be captured by bag also. What is the power of air? So ஒரு ஏர் பத்தி சொல்லி தந்த பிறகு that student யாராவது கேள்வி கேட்டாங்கன்னு சொன்னா, they have to identify, the student should particularly whether AIR air, it outcome should come. For that, the teacher should demonstrate. Not only board teaching. For even sugar, SUGR, sugar, inikum, sugar is a sweet. We can't bring some sugar and eat them and let them feel the sweet. What is the sweet? So this outcome should be, that is based on the practical demonstration. In fact, the student should do the practical, not only teacher doing the practical of the teacher, the student should enjoy the practical knowledge.
Can you quantify or measure the indicators which you have just now you have mentioned?
Particularly primary education. Discipline is the most important. Outcome, no doubt academic. You have to prove academic knowledge, whether reading capacity and learning capacity, outcome, even the discipline, what I told, even the culture. Even the, for example, the culture of the boy, they have to, udarma annayar dinam, friendship day, and now we have to give the outcome of the student. For example, even the program outcome. Even we are taking the industry visit, we are taking excursion visit. இன்னைக்கு வந்து டிவி வந்த பிறகு நோ டவுட் கல்ச்சர் ப்ரோக்ராம் கூட கொஞ்சம் மாடர்னைஸ்டு டான்ஸ் இருக்கு தவிர, ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் சான்ஸ்கிரிட் பற்றியோ இல்லை நம்ம கல்ச்சரை பற்றியோ அவுட்கம் உதாரணமாக அதில் கடவுள் வாழ்த்துன்னு இருக்கு, திருக்குறளை பற்றி இருக்கு. ஸோ அந்த ஸ்டூடெண்ட்டுக்கு வந்து we have to say the story, we have to say the demonstration, and the demonstration done by the student, then only outcome is it will come.
Thank you, Dr. Mohan. Maybe in one word, we have to say means PBL, project-based learning.
Yes.
That's what I think he wants to mention. Storytelling is very important. In olden days, our ancestors will connect story and lesson. That also we are missing. So PBL, project-based learning, and storytelling should be introduced in the system. Teaching methodology. So now the question goes to Mrs. Jayashree. So governments are increasingly concerned assuring the quality of public services, including education. At national and regional level, it is important to have broad indicators of overall education performance. Do you think the both quantitative and qualitative data are important in this and are to be made part of quality assurance system?
Thank you, sir. We are coming back to use of metrics here. As I was talking some time back, I think qualitative data has to be the backing for quantitative data that is available. So when quantitative data is giving answers to what the situation is, quantitative analysis is going to give us a trend. If we are, for example, comparing the scores between boys and girls, for example, girls are scoring better. So the quantitative data is going to tell us that this is happening. Qualitative data is going to ask the more pertinent question of why this is happening. It is going to give us a background on why girls are performing better than boys. And it is also going to tell us, is it universal? Is it happening in every city and every town? Is it happening in the rural area or in the urban area? And in which regions are these happening? So once we get that data, we again go into the depths of understanding the reasons for this. For that, we will probably have to take, a smaller sample size, a school or a few schools which belong to the same category or board in a region, and then go into depth into those schools and study the reasons for such a difference in grades among the schools. So I'm just taking one indicator and trying to say why qualitative research has to be the background to arrive at the reasons for why a situation is existing with respect to a single parameter. So both qualitative and quantitative data have to go hand in hand in this aspect. I hope I've answered.
One more question to you. As you mentioned, girls are performing better than boys. Why?
So we always stop there. We always stop with the data that girls are performing better than boys. So again, if we probably do a little more in-depth research, we will probably understand. So these are things which we have not really researched, which we have not really tried to understand the reason. Maybe the exposure to girls are less than boys, or maybe the data itself is jinxed in the sense girls are probably able to learn and by heart and answer the questions in a better way. Probably if the questioning was different, boys might perform better. If the questioning are more oriented on practical knowledge, maybe boys might perform better. So again, that kind of a qualitative research is what is lacking.
So you say biotic is a good system, it's good for future?
No, it is necessary at a certain level. So every time I cannot reinvent theorems. I have to have certain basic minimal concepts in memory. I cannot invent pi r squared every time. I have to have that in memory. But that will be the groundwork of more higher order skills which we have to develop. There we have to again analyze whether girls are doing better than boys. That analysis we have to get into. I'm not sure if we have enough data to support that. Is my view.
Now people talk about open book exam system. What's your
I think it is a very good system if it can be implemented at a certain level, because the basic formulae and whatever content we are going to question them it is already given. So the memory is not tested at all. We are only testing whether the student is able to apply the concept, or if the student is able to evolve something from the concept that he is seeing there in front of him in his book. I think it is a great system.
You have said that both the quantitative as well as the qualitative data must and would go hand in hand. And you have also referred and give one or two examples of qualitative indicators. If you are given the responsibility to include a few quantitative indicators related to a school, in a school, what indicators would be the best to judge the system, school?
So, as we all know, the primary quantitative indicator to judge effectiveness are scores. But instead of looking at scores at a single level, say for example, at the end of school education, we pay a lot of attention to the scores at that level. Probably we can go deeper and look into the performance of students in a quantitative basis, go into scores at various levels in various classes in various parameters. So if I'm, for example, if I take English learning at school level, if I'm going to be testing the writing skills of student, that stops at a certain level. If I can go on and quantify the other skills that are related to learning a language, comprehension, if I can test oral spoken language skills, if I can test the listening skills of a student, all that if I can quantify and bring it down into the assessment, those quantitative parameters will reflect an all-round development in that particular area for the student. This is not only, so if I go beyond marks and probably go on to, like I was saying, student-teacher ratio, that is again a quantitative indicator.
Very good. So if I consider percentage of female teachers, average school size, average size of a class, average number of children sitting in a class, percentage of contractual teachers to the regular teachers, percentage or number of teachers, those who have recently undergone in-service training, or percentage or number of teachers, young teachers, about below 35 or like this. Are these quantitative indicators or qualitative indicators you must consider?
The data that is quantitative in form. So behind this data, there are qualitative parameters which define these quantitative indicators, is what I would say.
The next question is to Meenakshi ji. Different approaches to quality assurance are apparent. Not only how they integrate external and internal mechanism, but also in how they balance their accountability and important functions. If the responsibility is given to you, you will go for internal assessment or external evaluation or audit or on-the-spot checking or surprise checking, or you will use a mix of all these. A few projects are currently going on, one of which is initiated by Ministry of Education through NIEPA, National Institute of Education Planning and Administration, which is known as School Standards and Evaluation, which is also similar to, not exactly same, but similar to this particular program. And their aim is to cover 1.5 million schools. They could able to cover only 240,000 schools. As of now, they have divided all the parameters in a school into the 7 domains. But so far as the Tamil Nadu is concerned, of the 58,000 schools, something around 78% schools have already initiated and finished the internal evaluation, and something around 15,000 schools have also done the external evaluation. In due course of time, we will study what is this, and we will also try to learn from this experiment and other experiments. So, madam, we would like to know from you which approach you will.
Thank you, sir. I happened to just go through the small release from the CBSE board on a road to excellence in school education. And it also had many domains of standards and how these could be evaluated with certain parameters for the leaders and teachers and management to understand. So if my personal opinion is viewed on the question that you have posed, sir, it would be a mix of both internal and external. Now, as I prepare the entire team as a leader or as an individual, if I'm going to be confident with success criteria built either as a teacher or as a student or as a management, working towards reaching or climbing up the rungs of the ladder to reach somewhere some quality performance with the expectations of all the stakeholders. And there could be a 360-degree feedback that can be taken from all the students, from the line managers, self-assessment, peer evaluation, and I would want to have a quantitative and qualitative assessment and make it purely an introspection for the individual and bring it as a culture of an organization. It should not be that I'm doing something because I'm being, monitored by somebody. No. Even as a leader, as a school principal, I used to tell my teachers that don't just do something to impress somebody, right? It should be from within. Don't perform a class just because your principal is observing your class or somebody is observing with parameters written. The pace of delivery was good. The teacher used all the methods. There are a variety of methodologies used. No, I need to know what am I doing. And the feedback would be, as you said, in measuring the observable outcomes, both tangible and intangible. And there could be so many intangible outcomes observed as a teacher for which I have to be an observant individual in a class. I need to know, I need to be a counselor, I need to be an architect, I need to be a sculptor, I need to be a wireman, I need to be a ringmaster. If I were to develop all these qualities, I need to introspect and I have to become a risk taker. I should create an environment stating that it is okay to make mistakes. If as a teacher I am creating this environment in a classroom, children will also feel, oh, nobody is going to ridicule me. I can ask doubts. I can go and share this. Now, these are the success criteria. I am at this level. Let me perform and go to the gold level. And it's a competition within me and within myself. That attitude is what we need to bring in. And there was a statement of teaching air. If I were to bring in quality as a science teacher in air, if I were to have the feedback and instill value education, as the principal of 𝗤𝗲𝗵𝗶 𝗏𝗃 said, it is accountability, integrity, and responsibility that we breathe in without even knowing that it is existing because it is invisible. But then I have to teach them that. But all that comes with self-introspection, and I need to be open to feedback, open to suggestions. Then I can accept any evaluation, any kind of methodology for improving the quality, and the setting of that culture rests with the head of the institution. The leader leads the way, whether it is the management or the leader or the prime minister or the president. It speaks of the leader delegating the leadership roles and making him to be responsible, confident, risk takers. And she spoke about data. I need to make him a researcher, a data analyst. So many profiles are there. If I am going to be improving on all this, I will not say, you don't come into my room, you don't watch me. It is a transparent judgment, open to feedback, suggestions. That is collaboration, that is sharing, that is improvement, that is marching ahead. Thank you so much.
There is small, sorry, with your permission. We need some of 4 volunteers who could be able to sing a national anthem. Can you just come out? You. National anthem, okay. Some 3. Okay, just please 3, you can come out, and then I just want to show you to the security people. Kindly, please. Okay, thank you. Please
Thank
continue.
Yeah, as per government protocol, it should not be recorded. That's what Mr. Paini was requesting.
Can we come?
Yeah, please. So next question goes to Professor Neeraj Gupta. So in India, the stage is almost said to improve. Yeah, please. And scale up the education at all levels. While the schemes are helping India in its journey towards providing equitable access to quality education, there are a host of continuing challenges. Can you please elaborate on these challenges, sir?
Thank you. See, to me, the biggest challenge is that we have to come out of that hangover of British and industrial age. That's one biggest challenge. That attitudinal correction is what is important to us. Second thing would be from the parental side of it, we have to come out of that STEM is the only branch, science, technology, engineering, management. So that's one part of this thing that is important. Looking at the challenges of the assessment and other some things, we need to really look into this fact that, and I'm again saying, it is easy to assess and accredit a private sector institution. When you come to government sector institution, a lot of things are already known. One of the biggest challenges there, when you look at the overall picture, is going to be the resources, the infrastructure available for it, the teachers training part of it, curriculum, etc. The other thing is accessibility, how they do it. For example, there are certain things which are really bottleneck in the school education, which cannot be measured by school. A simple thing like rural roads, accessibility of these girls to reach their school. That has a serious impact on the enrollment ratio, etc. How do we measure that? How do we take that into account? The public transportation system, etc. And the third, as far as accreditation is concerned, the schools and the teachers, they need to really understand the process of accreditation. Now, I can tell you with my own experience, both being in the Vice Chancellor and also as a teacher, the NAC accreditation becomes a nightmare for all the faculty members of the institution, because you just invest a lot of time and ultimately it gets into, if I may be saying that, it becomes a consultant's job, who know how to fill the numbers in the right places and get the things done. So that's something, when we have those state school standards authority, how do we constitute them? So probably there is a need to rethink the way we assess, whether institutions are going to do it, whether the whole process is going to be outsourced to experts, independent bodies who can then be doing it. So that's one of the major, the 4 challenges that I feel with reference to accreditation. It is of course required, like you said, quantitative and qualitative, absolutely right. And if I may just add a line about when talking about the girls scoring well, I can, share an anecdote. You see, when we were studying architecture, we discovered that girls were always getting higher number in the classes, And one would, very blatantly and very rudely say, well, the teacher would prefer the girls and that's why he's giving them more marks. Later on, I discovered that when these girls were designing, they were more innovative, more creative, and thus their assessment was higher because the evaluation was being done for the creativity. While the boys were thinking from the different side of the brain, looking at the numbers and the structures and things like that, girls were thinking differently. So if probably the questions were different, the scoring would be different. Other factor is a social factor that comes into play. I asked some of these girls, in our university for last 4 years, 75% of the gold medalists are girls. So I asked few of them, I said, how come you are getting more marks? And the answer this kid gave was very simple. Sir, boys have so much of liberty to loaf around. We don't have anything else to do but to be at home. So what is the best thing to do other than study? So some of these things are very interesting. Though, if you ask the right questions, you'll get the right answers. That's how you look at it. Thanks for that.
We do have more observations, but because of the time limitations, we take few questions from the few observations from the audience. Anyone can make a point. So you are for quality or quantity?
I think we should both.
Can you name a few indicators? Anyone based on your school? Can you name a few indicators which gives us information about quality assurance in your school?
So quantity should increase with quality.
So one quality is the enthusiasm and the involvement and the readiness, which is observable to be present, to be engaged, to be listening actively. That is one quality for anything to be. That's a quality. Yeah. It's talking about indicators. Output is when you're engaged, you will be bringing out with involvement. So the output comes how we interact. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you. Thank you.
Any questions?
I thank the panel members. Thank you.
Thank you so much, G.V. Selvam sir, Arun C. Mehta sir,
Thank you so much for chairing the session. So please be here on the dais, please. Now I would like to invite Professor Kanakraj, Chairman, Jaya Group of Schools, Dr. Manish Jindal, CEO, NABET, Mr. P.R. Mehta, sir, Kanakraj, and Ms. Madhu Ahluwalia to please present mementos to our chair and speakers. Firstly to G.V. Selvam, sir. Professor Kanakraj, sir. Please, a huge round of applause, please. Now to Professor Arun C. Mehta. He's former professor and head Department of Education Management, NIEPA. A little louder, please. Now we have with us Professor Neeraj Gupta, Dean, School of Architecture, Central University of Rajasthan. Ms. Meenakshi Ramesh, Director, Curriculum Research and Development, Wells Group of Schools. Ms. Jayashree Venkatraman from Agurchand Manmull Jain School. And Dr. Bharat Mata Mohan, Correspondent, 𝗤𝗂𝗴𝗶 Matric School, Chennai. Now I would request all the dignitaries for a group photograph, please. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Now we have with us one small presentation. It's an existing accredited school, the 𝗤𝗂𝗴𝗶 School.